Hello and welcome to News Talk here on Inside Lane, where you can get your weekly dose of motoring news. Now, a few weeks ago I did things a bit differently. I sort of created this open forum for you guys to talk about the 2018 Subaru WRX STI, and the amount of responses we had was incredible. It far surpassed what I was expecting, so thank you guys for getting involved. Because I really love this sense of community here on YouTube where we can actually have a two-way conversation, and this is the reply part to that, I suppose. You guys had some really great thoughts and ideas on this that I wanted to dedicate this week's News Talk into your responses. So I guess that's what we're going to do, and this is News Talk. Now, there was so much constructive stuff down there in the comments that I've had to write some of it down, so do excuse my notepad, but there was just a bit too much to recognise. So anyway, the idea was that I sort of put out there what I thought the 2018 Subaru WRX STI could incorporate, and you guys debated in the comments about what was right, sort of in the same ethos as of Subaru, but also what was required to compete with today's hot hatchbacks, which have put increasing amounts of pressure on the all-wheel drive flagship for Subaru. So anyway, these responses sort of came in two camps, and the first one was that the car should be left alone. Its formula should primarily be what it is today. It should be rough, it should be hardcore, it should be a machine that splits opinion, and I totally get that. I think there's a lot to be said for a car that you could sit down and there's a difference of opinion between people, because, you know, variety is the spice of life. If you made every car exactly the same, we'd live in a very, very boring world. And I do, to be fair, although I criticised, you know, suspension and ride in the current STI, I do appreciate the fact that it is there for the performance side of the coin, if you see where I'm going with that. So yeah, some people were saying that you should leave the hard ride alone. In fact, somebody, Jason Kellogg, said some people like a car that is a little bit raw, and I get that. I totally get that. In what I said, I was sort of saying that if you have this really hardcore element of the car, it's going to put potential buyers off, and then without more people buying the car, then Subaru can't really advance it any further to compete with the likes of Focus RS, Audi RS3, etc., etc., these all-wheel drive hot hatchbacks. At the end of the day, the company's a business, and for the same reason that Porsche sell things like the Macan, it helps pay for the next 911 GT3. And so for the next big evolution of the Subaru, the car has to do well. It has to make a business case for itself. And my idea was that if we have this adjustable suspension, then you can have the best of both worlds. But like I say, the first group of people here were very adamant that it needs to remain a hardcore machine, and I respect that. I respect that. Another point was that 400 brake horsepower. I was like, it would be nice if it had about 400 brake horsepower. Subaru should come back and make a really big statement of intent about, you know, they should leapfrog what the competitors are putting out horsepower-wise, and make a big statement that Subaru WRX STI is a performance landmark that people should aspire to. The power output of the car stayed broadly the same for quite a while, and obviously competitors are pushing out, you know, 340, 350, 360 brake horsepower, and it's time that I felt that Subaru caught up. Now, some people said that that was unlikely. It's too much of a big jump from what we have today to 400 brake horsepower. I see that. People were saying maybe 350 brake horsepower in the new car, because I think that puts it on a level playing field. My point was that I would love to see Subaru really stamp their name across this segment once again, like they did during the, you know, 90s, early 2000s. It was still a massive performance car player in terms of numbers on paper. Anyway, the second camp sort of sided with my broad opinion in that the car should evolve with the times a little bit. It is a bit of a dinosaur. Things like the turbo lag that the engine experiences, it's time that that engine was replaced. And I think actually a lot of people, even people who were saying that the car should be hardcore, were saying, you know, come on, it's time that we had a new motor in this car. We want a reduction in turbo lag. We want that increase in torque efficiency, effectively, where it's going to come in more immediately. So it was great that people could agree upon that. The adjustable dampers came up again in this segment here. My attitude is, if you can make the car appeal to both the hardcore enthusiasts and the people who want that hardcore car for the weekend, but want to use it as a daily, I think it's win-win for everybody, isn't it? You can have your cake and eat it. So if I can drive to the shops and not have my spine eroded by a really hard ride, and bear in mind in the UK we do have some really bad road surfaces, but you know, when I find a beautiful country road like we have in this country, if I can turn everything up to maximum attack and it is that hardcore car, that's what I want. I want Jekyll and Hyde. I want both sides of the coin, effectively. Is that possible? Yes, adjustable dampers have proven that they can do this, and I think it's about time Subaru incorporated this, much like a lot of competitors have done today. And for you hardcore guys who say, oh, I don't want a softer setting, leave it in its hardcore setting. You still get your really rough and ready suspension. You don't need to use the softer settings. And likewise for anybody who doesn't want the most hardcore car. But personally, I think choice is always a good thing when it comes to these cars. Somebody actually was saying that they want the performance to be as legendary as what it was back in the golden era, saying that, you know, it used to compete with BMW M3s once upon a time. It was a car that offered you exceptional value for money in terms of performance. And whilst the car does still undercut a lot of competitors at the moment, you have to agree that it's not churning out the same headline-grabbing performance figures. And I know numbers aren't everything, but it does sell a lot of cars at the end of the day. And let's see, somebody even quoted saying, so Second Chance said, back in the day, Subarus were as fast as the BMW M3. And he basically goes on to say, wouldn't it be great if we could have that? So today's equivalent M4, yeah, I'd love to see a Subaru WRX STI that put cars that were so much more expensive to shame. And that's effectively what it was. It's a bit like the Nissan Skyline back in the day. It was a car that cost probably half the amount of a really extreme performance car, but could match it out on track. And I'd love to see that from Subaru, but unfortunately I think today's day and age, the cost to enable that to happen, it would push the price point up so high in the car. And like we say, one of the things that makes Subaru WRX STI so popular is that the everyman can go and afford one. It's for the same reason that the Mustang became so popular. It's because, you know, somebody with a half-decent job could still go and buy the car of their dreams. And if you dream of a Subaru WRX STI, then it's a relatively affordable prospect. Now, something that came up really often was the fact that people bemoan the loss of the hatchback. Hatchbacks for their practicality, you know, fast, practical performance, that's appealing to everyone, right? It's probably one of the reasons why Focus RS is doing so well in America, because it's the first real big hot hatchback that's out there. Hot hatchbacks have always been really popular in this country, and I feel sorry for Subaru, because if you think about it, you know, a couple of generations ago we had, you know, just the saloon car, then they offered the hatchback, and then everyone said, well, why don't you do it as a saloon? So then later in the car's product life cycle, they brought out the saloon, or sedan if you're in America. And then everyone said, oh, but why want the hatchback, whenever they decided to delete that option this time. Would you like to see a Subaru hatchback? I think, to be honest, people who really, really want a Subaru WRX STI will buy it regardless of what body style it is. It'd be nice to have the choice, but again, it's that sort of thing that pushes the cost of production up. And ultimately, do you want a hatchback, or do you want the car to cost a few £1,000s or a few $1,000s more? You know, again, that's an open forum. But one thing that I want to finish on, because I appreciate that I've been droning on for a while now, is something that somebody brought up in the comments, and I thought it was genius, and I hadn't even thought about it, but though it is much rumoured, and that's the hybrid element of the car. Could we be seeing an all-wheel drive hybrid performance car from Subaru in the shape of the new WRX STI? Is that a good idea? Well, I think, as we've seen from top flight hypercars, and now it's trickling down into supercars, that will trickle down and trickle down and trickle down until we see a lot of cars having this hybrid assist. And I love the fact that we can now use it for performance and not just efficiency, though the boost in efficiency probably will be welcome to the wallets of most people. But yes, I think that a hybrid element to the car would be very, very tempting. It would negate any turbo lag because you can torque fill with the electric motors. Yes, it does add some weight, but I think the initial acceleration, performance gain and all-round usability would be more beneficial. And if you live in a country like the UK where you're taxed based upon the emissions that the car produces, if you can have a car that can run even just for 10, 20 miles on electricity alone, that's going to make a big difference to how much you pay in tax. Anyway, throw this back out to the comments. I want to see what you guys think. That was a great part of the video previously. And hopefully you guys found this series of videos useful. Maybe we'll do this with some more cars. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments below. Please subscribe for all of the latest and greatest cars to hit the road. For breaking news and written reviews, visit www.insidelane.co.uk.